Well, hello, friends, and welcome to the Imago Nutrition Podcast. My name is Mark. I'm one of your hosts, along with Danielle Glesney, my business partner, sister-in-law, and dietitian extraordinaire. Danielle, how are things up in St. Louis?
Very good. Very good. It's definitely springtime. I think we get up to the 80s today.
Wow. Yeah. You guys are beating us, which is somewhat rare. We're in, I guess, coming up on 70, but kind of rainy and drizzly down here. So we got a little bit of that going on, but you guys are nice and bright and sunny, which is great. And so it is April 3rd as we're recording this. And so, spring is in full effect. And so that is a lot of fun. We took a little time off for various reasons, and we are excited to be back. And we've got an interesting series that we're going to be setting up and working through in the coming weeks. And so if you don't know, this podcast is dedicated, of course, to answering questions and giving you practical nutrition strategies to help you and your family flourish. And so we're going to be really leaning into the practical nutrition strategy side of that sort of podcast mission, if you will, with today and the coming series. And so if you are someone that wants to eat healthier, you're someone that is sort of looking at where do I get started, or even looking to get perhaps creative with some common foods or to learn about some uncommon foods that you should be thinking about and possibly incorporating, this is really the episode for you. And so if you go back, you'll know that in January, we did a podcast series on popular diets. And the last one at the end of January in 2023, the last episode we did was titled, "Is There Any Diet We Recommend?" Spoiler alert, if you haven't listened to that yet, it was the Mediterranean diet. And so while we are still not people that go around prescribing diets necessarily, as we said in that episode, if you came up to us and said, but I need to be on a diet with a name, you got to give me a diet. You have to tell me a diet that's out there that I should be following. If we had to, it would be the Mediterranean diet. And so we talk about the 4 pillars of nutrition a lot. And so that's really kind of our framework that we utilize. But as we also mentioned in that episode, it's very similar to the Mediterranean diet because it comes from a nutrition science standpoint. It comes from an array of, whole nutrient dense foods, a wide array of nutrient dense foods. And that's really what Mediterranean diet is. And so if you want more information on Mediterranean diet specifically, definitely go back and look at, is there any diet we recommend? I think it was just 2 episodes ago. And so if you heard that or are hearing this now and are like, okay, but sort of how do I get started? And there's some tips in that episode about how to get started. We're going to get really practical. And this is where I'm going to be able to turn it over to Danielle, and I'm going to get to learn. I'm going to be a student as well because you're far better schooled in these things. And so we're going to talk about eating healthier, sort of getting started with some you're going to hear referenced a lot as Mediterranean style. Right. And how to get creative with some of these common foods, but also some uncommon foods. And so we're going to take a look at 2 common foods today. And by the way, if you have any questions about this episode or any other episodes or nutrition in general, just head over to the website, imagonutrition.com/podcast. It's IMAGO nutrition.com/podcast. You can submit a question. Again, if it's just about a general nutrition question you have, something you've heard, something you're confused about, or something coming out of any one of these specific episodes, be sure to let us know, and we will consider it for a future topic. And so all that's to say, Danielle, I'm going to start turning it over to you. And so we're going to be talking about 2 very common foods. I mean, next episode, we're going to introduce sort of an uncommon food, right, which we'll talk about at the end of this episode, which will be the next episode. We'll tease you on what's coming next. But today, we have 2 very common foods, relatively common foods, that we would consider to be nutrient-dense foods that can be utilized in many different ways. And so again, as we unpack these foods, be thinking about, your current nutrition habits, some ways that you could incorporate these, some ways that you could get creative with these, some things that you could do differently with these foods. And so all that's to say, I'm going to hand it over to Danielle. So Danielle, we're going to talk about 2 common foods today, right? And so why don't you talk a little bit about what those are, what they sort of look like nutritionally, and then I'm here to learn as well about maybe some creative things we can do with these foods.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. So the first one is apples. So I think a lot of people might incorporate apples as a snack already, but are we, how often or how frequent are we doing that? And so some of these tips can really help maybe with just increasing frequency by incorporating them to different meals or different snacks that you're not already doing.
Okay, so quick, I'm going to interrupt you already. Yeah. You're 12 seconds in. I had to interrupt. So just a fun question, do you like green apples or red apples more?
I like red apples more, but I do go into the green when I need a little change up. So
okay, well, I was just at your house recently, twice in 1 week, because I drove up there, picked up my brother, your husband. We drove up to Minnesota and came back and crashed at your house, both on our way to Minnesota and on the way back. And you had 2 bowls of green apples. So I was wondering if you were going to say green, because I definitely ate green apples both times I was at your house. So I was like, does she a green apple? Because I prefer green apples. And so I actually would have guessed you were going to say green, just because my recent experience had a lot of green apples in your kitchen. But to your point, sometimes you change it up. So I'm on the green side, you're on the red side. Just wanted to clarify that. That's obviously a big sticking point, and you're wrong and I'm right, and that's okay. But we'll move on. I still love you. So okay, well, that out of the way. Let's get back to the actual education. But I was curious.
Yeah, I think that's fine. It actually was my kids. So, when they're grocery shopping with me, they'll ask for the green apples this time or the red apples this time. So that's get your kids involved. So in the grocery shopping, yeah. Look at that. Good tip. So apples are obviously a really great source of fiber. It's any fresh or frozen fruits or veggies are a great source of fiber. They're also a great source of vitamin C. And they have a plant pigment called flavonoids. Now, flavonoids can either be antiviral, anti-inflammatory, or antioxidant. So it depends on which flavonoid is in your food. So apples specifically can be neuroprotective and cardioprotective. So that's the flavonoid, that is present in apples. The nutrition breakdown of apples, they have in one medium apple is 95 calories, 1 gram of protein, 25 grams of carbs, 3 grams of fiber, and 0 grams of fat. So these are good energy-based food that's going to help you feel more satisfied. There's lots of chewing that can make you feel satisfied, and the fiber can make you feel satisfied. So now we can jump into kind of some tips on how to incorporate these either more frequently or in different ways.
Yeah, because here's my confession. Yeah. I eat them 2 ways. Right? Okay. The only way in probably the last 10 to 15 years that I've consumed apples, I'm trying to think if this is accurate. Probably just 2 ways. One is just straight up, like a softball in your hand, just munching away, which I enjoy. The other one, this may sound weird, but I still play soccer. So because it's so energy based, I'm looking for that before I go play a soccer game. And so what I'll do sometimes is do whole wheat, 2 slices of whole wheat bread with some peanut butter on it. And I'll actually dice up my apple, or I'll even slice up my apple and put it on those slices of bread, which I know looks weird. And people are used to doing that with like bananas, but I also do that with apples. And so it's kind of that peanut butter apple combination with, wheat toast. But that's honestly like the only 2 ways that unless my wife puts it in something, because she does the cooking. I'm not a cook. As much as I'm a nutrition nerd, I'm not a cook. I'm just an assembler. I just assemble food and eat it. But other than that, that's really as common or not as common. I mean, that's the basics, right? It's just straight up, or maybe adding it to something. So I am curious how to get a little more creative, because I'm fairly uncreative when it comes to apples.
Okay. Well, that is one of the first tips, slicing it with nut butter. So you use peanut butter. So I use almond butter most often with my apples. When you're selecting your nut butter, try to just find the one that has nuts, the nut, and salt. Mm-hmm. So almonds plus salt, or just almonds by itself, and then peanuts plus salt, or just peanuts by itself. I know it takes some time for your taste buds to adjust, but we really don't need the palm oil and the added sugar and the hydrogenated oils. So the best high quality one would be the one you do have to stir and take some extra time with that. But it's totally worth it once your taste buds adjust. Peanut butter is my favorite food. And I found that when I had the peanut butter with added sugar, it created like an addictive type of taste for me. And so I feel like with just the nuts and the salt, it's enjoyable, but not like I need this peanut butter.
and we can't overstate. I mean, we've talked about this a little bit on our social media channels, et cetera, et cetera. And I've been working with clients on this too. And it's really reassuring for people to know that your taste buds will adjust. And so a lot of times we think we're locked in. Well, these are just the foods I enjoy. And yes, it does take some discipline, but it doesn't take as much time as you may think. We're not talking about like, oh, I got to wait a year until I'm not craving hyper palatable, super salty, super sugary foods. It doesn't take that long. It's different for every person. However, it is an amazing thing that your taste buds will adjust. And some people just can't fathom that. They feel like they're sort of locked into their taste preferences, right? And they're like, well, I just couldn't eat healthy food because I just don't enjoy it. Those of us, and by the way, healthy, I put that in quotes, like all food in context, yes. But when we're talking about nutrient dense foods, there's room for fun foods. There's room for hyper palatable foods at times, for sure. I mean, we eat pizza with our kids, right? But it's just that we're preferring more often than not these nutrient dense, whole, minimally processed foods. And over time, yes, we actually do begin to prefer those, and so just a word of encouragement to folks out there. Like, I wish I could eat healthier, but I just don't really enjoy it as much as I enjoy these foods. Exactly to the point about peanut butter, that can just be a micro adjustment where maybe you just put to test this theory with just peanut butter. I dare you to experience your taste buds changing on something like as simple as peanut butter and as amazing as peanut butter. So anyways, little side rant there, but it's a great point. And I think it's very empowering for people to know that your taste buds will adjust. You are not locked into your current preferences. They can change.
I would like to just add your kids' taste buds will also change because typically the comeback I get with that is, well, my kids won't eat it then. Nah. They will. I promise. My kids started off on Jif. That was Jared's favorite. And like I said, it just didn't sit well. And I feel like once I switched to the nuts and the salt, Jared definitely struggled too in the beginning. We all struggled a little bit, but
my baby brother.
Love Dr. it all.
Lesney. You fixed him. Well done. Welcome to marriage.
Oh, man. But all right. So number 2 is slice on a salad. So I love to do this on a mixed green salad. I love to do the sliced almonds with feta cheese and toasted walnuts. You can simply toast walnuts in the microwave for 1 minute, 1.5 or 2 minutes if your microwave's not that strong. But yeah, that's a great salad combination that's really fast. A little feta cheese, toasted walnuts, and sliced apples. It also pairs well with gorgonzola cheese, red onion, and toasted pecans. So if that's more of your style, that is also a good combination and pair.
And then you do like a little vinaigrette on that? What do you do in terms of
I love it with the balsamic vinaigrette. Yeah.
Balsamic, or I'm a big raspberry vinaigrette fan. And so, vinaigrettes are kind of, they're the rock stars in the dressing world.
Yes. So then number 3, or we'll just not say the numbers in case I lose track, is make a fruit salad. So even in the winter or as we're getting into spring, we are not necessarily having all fruits. People think that fruit salads are only for summertime, but you really can make a good winter salad or off-season salad, if you will. You can use oranges, frozen berries if they're not good yet at the store. Just run them under some water to defrost them. Bananas are always in season. Of course, the apples. So great way to give some crunch in a fruit salad. And if you're really struggling with getting fruit salads are great because you really increase how much fruit you're eating when you have a fruit salad. So that's just a fun tip. Now, another one is roasting it with fall vegetables. So you dice your apples and then you pick a fall vegetable. It could be butternut squash, Brussels sprouts, or sweet potatoes. Now, again, sweet potatoes are typically always in your grocery store or in season. Butternut squash comes and goes. Same with Brussels sprouts. So thinking about just roasting them at any season is fine. You toss it with some olive oil, salt, pepper, and garlic. And you want it to spread out on the cookie sheet so it's not steaming. You want it to get a nice toasty brown. Typically, you can do it at a high temperature for about 20 to 30 minutes, so about 400 until they're like fork tender, again, until it's toasty brown. So that brings out the sweetness. So if you have a bitter vegetable, say you're saying, I'm never going to eat Brussels sprouts, I dare you try them roasted, because steamed Brussels sprouts versus roasted Brussels sprouts, they're completely different. They're
oh my gosh. And I know you have a lot of great restaurants up there. We live obviously in Nashville, have access to a lot of great food, huge food scene down here. And the stuff people are doing with Brussels sprouts, who would have thought 20 years ago or when I was a kid that I would be looking for Brussels sprouts on menus in adult life? But again, it's that crispy, it's that baked. They've got it drizzled and stuff. The stuff they're doing with Brussels sprouts is off the charts these days. So, kudos to all the food people that saw the brilliance of Brussels sprouts when most of us just remember them to be soggy misery from our childhood.
I didn't have to go through that. My parents didn't make them, but I started eating them as an adult when I tried roasting them. But so the next tip would be to bake a whole apple with cinnamon as a dessert.
Yeah, now we're talking.
Yeah, so good. Serve with toasted nuts, raisins, or a drizzle of that nut butter. So almond butter, peanut butter. So good. You could even dice it and put it in a saucepan or something and just cook it on the stovetop if you don't want to put it in the oven. And it cooks a little faster maybe that way because it's in smaller pieces, but very good. Very yummy. Awesome. The next one is to add apples to soups. Okay. So it's balancing out the savory flavors of your vegetables with broccoli or celery in your soup. Just putting a few apple, probably more like cubed, in your soups. Or if you're making like a butternut squash soup or carrot soup, it goes really well, with those pairings too.
Nice.
So the next one is sliced apples with a mandolin. So that really super, super thin slice. I typically do this in the fall when we go apple picking, when we have a lot of apples. It's a little labor intensive, but it is super fun project with your kids. Obviously you would take the slicing part and they can sprinkle it with cinnamon, and you're making apple chips. So you put it on a cookie sheet again with a parchment paper, or it's a little bit better with that silicone sheet. I don't remember what that's called. And you slice it thin, cinnamon, and then you put it in the oven until it's crispy like a chip. So
that's another good one. I like that one.
So substitute applesauce for sugar in baked goods. So if you are making banana bread or homemade brownies or pumpkin muffin, any type of recipe that calls for sugar, you can use the same amount. So if it calls for a cup of sugar, a cup of applesauce, half a cup of sugar, half a cup of applesauce. So it also, I find, makes it more moist, which is really good for baked products instead of dry muffin. You kind of want it to have some moistness to it. So
that's fascinating. As someone that doesn't do any cooking, that's mind blowing to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, you can just throw applesauce when it says sugar. That's cool.
Yes,
I get it. That works. That's cool.
That's good. Dice apples in savory dish, such as a spiced couscous or quinoa, side dish for a touch of sweetness, and then also a little bit of texture change. So I'm trying to think of specifically the last side dish that I made where I did that, but it just really having two different flavors. If you listen to any cooking shows or anything like that, they're always like, I only taste one flavor here. So it's good to have a little bit of both, not just the texture changes, but also the flavor changes too. So they go well with savory dishes. And so that is kind of what I have for you. I got this information from Old Ways. So it's a really great source. I obviously am putting my habits in there too, but they have a really great resource. And Mark, do you want to show them how to get there?
Yeah, it's a great series of documents that you can download. It just requires a free account, I believe, to the website. I believe that's still free to just get access. And so if you just Google the number 12, so 12 Great Ways Collection, this should be the number one result. Every time I've ever Googled that, it's the top result. I know that Google does things differently based on location, but I'm pretty sure if you type in 12 Great Ways Collection, and if you want to add Old Ways, that's a surefire way to make sure that that's top. And so Old Ways, by the way, it's a nonprofit. And so it's a food, they call themselves a food and nutrition nonprofit, helping people live healthier, happier lives. And so we love Old Ways. Old Ways folks, if you're listening, hit us up. Let's chat. Let's do some fun things together. But it's just a great nonprofit. And so if you Google 12 Great Ways Collection, Old Ways, you can see the menu there, and they have a download for each of these foods. And that's kind of a foundational piece. And they have even more information about that. And so we're giving you a bit of a primer along with some of our own, of course, insights and proclivities. But that's just a great resource to download for a host of different foods that, again, we'll be going through in this series in the coming weeks. But feel free to head over there, take a look at it, give them a shout out, download their resources. They do a lot on the Mediterranean style. And so we just really appreciate that. So Google 12 Ways Collection, Old Ways, click through, and then you can download those PDFs. I believe it's still a free account to just sign up for their website. So,
yeah, it's really nice because I feel like when we're starting to get some new foods or even common foods in different ways in our diet, it's kind of overwhelming to follow a recipe. So these 12 great ways for each different food are non-recipe ways. You just read that quick 2 or 3 sentences, and you don't need to necessarily measure or follow a long recipe. So that's another reason it's cool. Great.
All right. So after apples, what do we got?
Avocados. So it is a fruit. So we have 2 fruits today. Avocados provide a really great source of monounsaturated fat. They are cholesterol free, obviously, because avocados come from the plant and not the animal. They are a great source of fiber, B vitamins, vitamins C, E, and K, folate, potassium, and magnesium. Avocados are also a great source of carotenoids, which is another plant pigment that can reduce the risk for cancer, heart disease, and boost your immune system. So obviously a huge host of benefits here. And the last one is it can decrease risk for age macular degeneration, which means it's good for your eyes. If you don't have any grandparents with that, you might not know. That means your eyes. Good eye health. Okay. So in one medium avocado, there are 240 calories. There are 13 grams of carbs. There are 3 grams of protein, 22 grams of fat. And again, that's all that plant heart healthy fat, and good. 10 grams of fiber. So the serving of an avocado is not a whole avocado. Might not even be a half avocado. It depends on your calorie needs. But yes, just remember that it has a lot of that good heart healthy fat. So that's why the calories are a little high. And the 10 grams of fiber are going to help you feel so satisfied. That's in the whole. So obviously if you have a half, you're getting 5. So you're still going to get a good source of fiber, even if you have a fourth of an avocado. So really great for your heart. So should we jump in as far as the tips?
Let's do it, because unless it's guacamole on my Chipotle bowl, I don't eat a ton of avocados, to be honest. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't. Maybe my wife's listening to this episode being like, you don't know all the stuff I put in all our meals. That's probably the case. But I confess, for a long time, didn't care for avocados. I lived in California for 18 years. They're everywhere. I mean, I think California produces like 80% of, the U.S.'s avocados. I had friends that just had like avocado orchards in their backyard and stuff like that, and like lived in these really great places. So, but 2 things. 1, I would kind of eat them by themselves and be like, well, it's just bland. Like, I don't really care for it. And 2, the texture was kind of weird. For me, at least. Now, again, that was being a Midwest boy, growing up in the Midwest, then moving to California, and then getting on board with some of the stuff. I love avocados now, but I remember that. But I mean, other than like guacamole, I don't get very creative with it. So show me how to maybe get a little more creative.
I love to hear that piece of it because, yeah, I actually don't have avocado or guacamole on here. So the first tip is to mash it on a piece of toast with some salt and pepper. Maybe,
my daughter does that. Maisie loves
Okay.
she's bougie. She loves some avocado toast. So.
Okay, great. Yeah. You could put, an over easy egg or just salt and pepper. So that could be a good breakfast or snack, if you will. Another way to incorporate it for breakfast would to be dice it in eggs or omelet on top of an omelet. So goes well with our eggs. Another one is making avocado butter. So this is really creative and easy. You just, again, put it in a bowl, mash it with a fork, add 1 tablespoon of lime or lemon juice, and then you use it on your baked potato, just like butter instead of butter. So again, because it has that
one's good. I like that one.
heart-healthy fat and creamy texture, it does kind of mimic butter. And another food in a minute, I'll share what that is. A next one, add it to any salad. Okay. So again, it could be a leafy green salad diced on top of that. It could be in a quinoa salad. So with diced tomatoes or chickpeas or cucumbers, bell peppers, what have you. Or even a fruit salad to just balance out the sweetness. You obviously have a lot of sweetness in a fruit salad. So just to get a little less sweetness and a little creamy texture. That might be a good way to try it if you're not necessarily a huge fan. It might be hidden by the fruit. Another way to maybe hide it per se, and we're not trying to hide it for kids, okay? Don't try to hide it on your kids. That creates lack of trust. But if you personally as an adult are trying to incorporate it into your foods and aren't, like you said, Mark, starting off not necessarily liking it as much, incorporate it into wraps or sandwiches. So it could be a good, instead of mayonnaise or in combination with mustard or hummus, give you some extra flavor on your sandwich or wrap. This is a fun lunch or maybe like a fancy appetizer. Might be with some whole grain crackers. Spread the avocado on top of that with some smoked salmon. So that would be really tasty. Whole grain cracker example would be like Triscuit, or any cracker that has about 3 grams of fiber or more is a really great choice to help you feel satisfied and get some fiber in. So whole grain cracker, avocado, and then smoked salmon on top. The next one is make a new potato salad. I do this with egg salad, actually. I'm not a huge fan of mayonnaise. So instead of mayonnaise, you're using the avocado. So for the avocado egg salad, again, you're just replacing, you use those hard-boiled eggs, toss a few yolks, use the avocado with like 1 teaspoon of mustard and a tablespoon of the apple cider vinegar. Mix that all up and just put it on a whole grain toast. Or you can just eat it with a fork. So some egg salad. And then the potato salad example is replacing the mayo with the avocados. It says chopped, and it says boiled new potatoes, diced celery, and moisten with lemon juice, wine, and olive oil. So if you're looking for a new potato salad. Another one would be to incorporate into fresh salsa. So whether you're buying fresh salsa or making fresh salsa, you can just add the diced avocados there. Another one is pasta salad. So we mentioned adding it to those other 3 salads, but you can also incorporate into a pasta salad. Summer's around the corner. So that could go well with some diced bell peppers, olives, scallions, whatever you typically put as far as veggies in your pasta salad. That diced avocado would probably go really well with that. Speaking of pasta, Barilla Protein Plus pasta is a really great one because it's made mostly from a bean or lentil, and therefore you're getting not just fiber benefit, but also the protein benefit. Another one is red lentil pasta. That's kind of fun because it's straight lentils. Again, you're getting the protein benefit and the fiber benefit. It's also colored red, so it can be fun for pasta salad as far as color and also for kids.
And you've mentioned Barilla a lot. And so I know if they're listening, they need to call us up and sponsor us. But so just so people can look that up too, Barilla is spelled Barilla. Okay, so if you haven't seen that or you want to look up where you can get that locally, Barilla, Barilla. Is that correct?
Yes.
So yep, you can get it's like a gold box with like a red logo or something like that. And so be on the lookout for that, because if you've been listening for any period of time, you might have heard that mentioned a couple times. And so we're big believers. And so again, shout out to the people at Barilla. Give us a call. Okay. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good because it doesn't taste like whole wheat pasta. And I think a lot of people get turned off by the flavor of whole wheat pasta. So it's most like your white pasta, but you're going to get more satisfaction and then less portion size. So, another way to incorporate is, utilizing the creamy texture. So this could be a dessert, such as a chocolate mousse. You can use it with, some, dark chocolate or semi-sweet chocolate. You can just Google avocado dessert recipes. You'll come up with a ton.
Wow.
And that's one of the things that the Mediterranean style of eating is incorporating fruit for dessert. And yes, avocado is a fruit. So, Google those recipes and see. They can be as simple as like mashing the avocado with the chocolate, letting it get a little hard in the fridge. You can make little balls too for the kids. So that's kind of fun. Or just using the creamy texture in a fruit smoothie. So obviously the fruit is going to make your smoothie sweet. Hopefully we're putting some veggies in there too, so it's not just all fruit. Keep the calories down a little bit. And the creamy texture of the avocado can be really, really nice in a smoothie. So
I've done a lot of smoothie. I've also, I have to confess, I've thought of using avocados for dessert roughly 0 times in my entire life. So that's new and interesting. But I've done a lot of smoothie work. I go in and out of seasons of doing smoothies, and it tends to be maybe more around summerish, I'm doing more smoothies and fruits and veggies. But I can honestly say I've never tossed an avocado in there. So that'll be, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that here pretty soon. I'm going to try that. Okay. I'll take you up on that one. The chocolate avocado thing.
It's good.
Well, I believe it. I'm all in on it. That just blows my mind. I just would have never thought,
Yeah. I think I went to a cooking class one time at our local grocery store, and I think they even used it as the avocado to replace the butter in a baked good. I think we were making brownies in the cooking class.
Well, you even talked about that with the baked potato. I mean, that's another, I mean, all of these are game changers, but there's a couple that just pop out to me that are like, oh my gosh, really? So it's fascinating. And again, it's like that texture is relatively unique, and it's something that we all experience. And I know several other people are like, I just don't like the texture. So I get it. It's like, but what if we could use that texture to our advantage? Because there are foods with that texture. We just don't associate avocado being, something that you could replace those with. So
exactly. Awesome. Well, that was really fun for me. So hopefully it was fun for you guys too. And I'm looking forward to this this series on foods.
Yeah, absolutely. And so about that, as we continue to talk about getting creative with both common and uncommon foods, just a little bit of a teaser to make sure that you subscribe so you get notified when the next episode comes out, is that I believe, Danielle, we're going to be talking, and by we, I mean you and me, just interjecting with random questions and, my weirdness. But on the next one, we're going to take a look at blueberries and bulgur, right? And so chances are when I say blueberries, you knew exactly what that meant. Maybe for 40, 50, 60, 80% of you, when I said bulgur, you're like, I don't know what that means. That sounds weird. And so we're going to talk about that. So let that be a little bit of a tease for the next episode. And so as I mentioned, be sure to subscribe if this has been helpful, if it's been fun. Drop us a review. Let us know how we're doing. We do read those. We get to be encouraged by those. And if this has been useful, consider sharing with a friend. So you've got someone that you like to talk about food or try new things with, or you got your foodie friends. Be sure to send them this episode. We would love to just help spark some of that creativity in as many people as possible. That's why we do this, of course, free of charge, is to a lot like, Old Ways, which is helping people live healthier lives. That's what we're on a mission to do as well. So if you're on social media, if you're not, by the way, that's totally fine. But if you are, you want to follow us, we are at Imago Nutrition. That's IMAGO Nutrition across all your major platforms. And as always, we would like to thank Happy Pill for our theme song, Thinkin Bout Food. We'll catch you on the next episode.